Absolutely not.
Why not?
Because people are still learning for the wrong reason. But the fact is, of course, it helped. Like a whole movement started as a response to not to learn for the wrong reason.
Is there only one right reason, or could there be some neutral reasons?
If you're interested in that, look at the Nefesh HaChaim. Okay, it addresses the neutral reason.
So, but why do we drink on Purim?
Never think for one moment we're not going to get there.
Okay.
We're on the third verse here. You know? So who did he make this party for? He made it for all of his sarav are ministers. The minister of finance, the minister of the interior, the minister of war, the minister of culture, the minister of Avodah Zarah, whatever you name it. The CIA, the NCSI, the health minister, all of the things, all of the ministers. And he also made it for his servants. So, usually, for example, a sar is like an intellectual. I think he translates it as elites. Right? It could be a great rabbi. What is avadav? What's a servant? A servant is somebody who does the will of the king without thinking and offering his or her opinion about it. That's what the king wants. That's what I do. On the one hand, a sar, the Gemara talks about this, has access to the king for ideas. On the other hand, a servant could go into the king without an appointment. Like if you're the king's butler, you're there, right? Story in the Gemara like that. When Choni, was it Choni or somebody like that, asked for rain, it rained. But when Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi asked for rain, it didn't rain. And the wife said, I should have married Choni. No, I didn't say that. It was like, Choni's on a higher level than you. And Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi explained that the king has a butler and it has a minister. I'm the minister. Choni is the butler. He can go in where I can't go. Minister needs an appointment. I don't have an appointment. So l'chol sarav v'avadav. For Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi level and for Choni level. You hear? And why do we need avadim? Why do we need servants? Isn't it enough to have the sarim, the intellectuals, the ministers? Because ein melech below am. There's no king without specifically people who are subjects that are servants, not just great ministers and leaders. However, nevertheless, since that's a big theme of Malchut, there is also an important feature in the Megillah of the Sarim that we want. The ministers can either go with Haman or they can go with Mordechai. And eventually we're going to have the Gam Charvona Zachor Latov. That Charvona also is remembered for good, for giving the king good advice to finish off Haman. And he's seen as somebody who flipped from the bad to the good. Now the verse continues. Chel paras umadai, same verse. Apartu mimsar amedinos lefanav. The the rulers or the governors of Paras and Madai. The Gemara actually says that Paras and Madai were two equal kingdoms, and they formed a unitary kingdom that would have a joint power sharing between the two kingdoms. So it's two kingdoms that shared a government structure with two governments, the equivalent of Republicans and Democrats. And every 4 years, or every 8 years, or every whatever year or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5, they would alternate who's ruling.
But it was geographical, not parties.
They started out geographical, but then they became one kingdom with two. It turned into the two geographic specific kingdoms became one greater super kingdom, but their original governing agencies which became like Republican and Democrats because they now had one shared. They now shared a power sharing system.
Geographical origins.
That's how it was started. Kind of what the people say now about the elite coastal versus the whatever, just to give you a reference point, the two countries here, the South and the. So if you look at the words, Paras and Madai have a lot of meaning, and Paras is like a type of garment. That's not what it means. It means Persia, Media. But I'm just saying the root of the word, and Madai comes from the word Mida, which is measurement. So Kabbalistically speaking, when God is like revealing Himself, He does it through what we call a parsa. Remember the word parsa, of course, right? Yeah. There's a parsa. There's just like there are these, and there's a kavamida. They're different terms. They both represent a way of cloaking and limiting the Or Ein Sof, the infinite light, to come and be mislabesh into the olamot, into the kalim. The light should fit into the specific vessels that will then answer the earlier questions of when is the purpose going to be recognized? When we have free choice, when God's hiddenness allows us to be who we are, right in the middle between good and bad. Okay, now, what is it? The Zohar talks about constantly the idea of the three, the balance. So, for example, when you have I think the word is tikla in Aramaic of the Zohar, it's a measuring device, which is basically two pans with a contraption on top that if you put a weight in one, you can estimate the weight in the other.
Scale.
Yes. I wanted to explain how scale works on purpose, because the scale is right, left, and the center is chesed, gvur, tiferes. So that's chel, paras, and madai is this parsa, this kav. They're creating this three, the thesis, synthesis, and antithesis, and that's why we'll see in the story, according to the Gemara, that who is the third wheel that they wanted? They wanted the chachamim to be the third, to be the machriya. They didn't want to be. That's the Gemara says that. Okay, we continue now. Next pasuk Dalet. Just keep waiting. It's all going to be. See, I told you you're going to get there.
I just want to know: is it we drink so until we can't tell the difference between haman?
Don't do anything like that, please.
But is it
the Rambam says you drink a little bit and then you go to sleep.
But is it because, like you were saying, to understand God?
We're not there yet. We have a long way to go. We did 3 verses. You're going to be here a long time. Thank God for the 10 p.m. Marav. You don't have to worry. Imagine there was no Marav. So, Beharoso, Pasuk Dalet, is Osher Kvod Balchuso, V'Sikar Tefes Kiloso, Yamim Rabim Shmonim U'Mayas Yom. In showing showing off the wealth, the riches, and the honor of his kingdom. People always want to say, well, my kingdom is very prestigious because look at the king, look at the castle, look at the art. And the honor of his splendid majesty for many days. Art scroll, Freudian slip, Steinsaltz. The feast, which was designed to publicly display the king's riches, might have lasted 180 days. I'm sorry, not might have lasted. He was showing off his riches and might.
Riches and might.
Lasted
Mama.
180 days. I just went right through the comma. I should have gotten a traffic violation for speeding, because it has a totally different meaning. Okay, so let's take a look at this.
Long feast.
He was showing off his kingship and his wealth. We say very similarly, Danny brought it up, I think it's Nietzsche or one of these philosophers that says, I don't want to worship a God that needs so much, give me the
Obey.
so needs so much praise or something. What?
He needs to be honored.
Yeah.
His problem is he came from so stable boy, a little general, so he needed to
Nietzsche
show
or Achashverosh?
Achashverosh.
Okay.
So that's what he had to show
Okay.
off. He didn't come from royalty.
So, but yet
Because it was Vashti, right?
Yet we say about God that the reason why He created the world is to show His greatness. So
It's one version.
that's one version, but it is a version that we have
Chabad, I
to.
think.
It's not Chabad. It's not
So who
Chabad.
says that?
It's before Chabad. Chabad quotes it and then says it can't be, and it's one of and the teachings about why it's dir v'dachtonim or Chabad. They quote that and disprove it, but it's Torah. It's to show Laharos. I don't want to make it up, but it's for him to show his abilities and his wholeness and so on. It's an earlier source, and
Because he came from nothing.
I'm talking about God right now.
Oh.
It's hard to say about God; He came from nothing. But Achashverosh, the Gemara says, also is a metaphor for Hakadosh Baruch Hu. It's both. You have to halt cup. You have to hold both in you. So Malchuso, we know, represents Tikkun Olam in the Kabbalistic version, the Sakan Olam Malchus Shaddai, to rectify the world through elevating Malchut. Vesikar Tiferet Gedula So there's two types of yakar, value, of precious things. One is value in money, and one is like the Visa or MasterCard tagline, priceless. It doesn't have a price. You can't name it. It's like everything that's expensive still has a price tag associated with it, and certain things are priceless. Now, we also know that the Gemara makes reference here to the Klei HaMikdash, the vessels of the temple, which have true beauty, and we're going to get back to that later. So we'll hold that thought. But the idea here is that when you see, one of the differences between a narcissist and somebody who's not a narcissist, this is according to some Indian woman who, I forgot her name, but she's written 2 books on narcissism. I listened to her. Ramani? Yeah, she's on YouTube, exactly. She's the YouTube expert on narcissism. So it's very geschmack.
She is a narcissist.
What?
She is a narcissist.
I don't know if she's a narcissist, but she said she actually described a party where she went to some Hollywood affair. She said, first of all, she said it was. She says, I never think I'll be at something so beautiful. Besides for all the movie stars there, beautifully dressed, just the physical place was so stunning and so lavish and expensive. And she said, I've never been in an emptier room in terms of the people. Because there's a preponderance of narcissists in the entertainment business. Apparently, you know who has the highest level of narcissism, according to Dr. Drew, another YouTube rabbi, another tzaddik. The reality show people, because they don't even have any skills. They just want to be famous for the lishma of just needing attention without even knowing how to sing or dance or whatever. But she said the thing that I noticed is that they didn't care about any of the beautiful things. They didn't take any notice of it. And one of the things that we need to do is be amazed and be in awe and be in wonder of beauty. And she noticed that they didn't have any. She's like, yeah, you could chalk it up to them being around fancy, all living in $50, $100 million homes and everything, but it's more than that. It's just like, because they're not impressed with things that are not them. So, I don't know if that's true. It was late at night. I might have not. If I misquoted her, she should be Michael me. And all the Hollywood stars should be Michael me. But I had two sources, her and Dr. Drew. So Yomim Rabim, many days, Shmonim Me'as Yom, 180 days. So there's a level of Yomim Rabim, which means a lot of something, a lot in time, or something that, similar to priceless, it's a lot. Like you're not even counting. Like many years, even though it's 180 days. But the Yomim Rabim represents something that you could arguably even say, on a Kabbalistic level, Chassidic level, is beyond ordinary time. But the fact is, it's still Yamim. Yamim is days. Rabim is a lot. Biboy. That means the bigger thing, the transcendent thing, is entering into a time frame.
So this wasn't everybody in the kingdom. I would always thought this was like everybody who lived in the whole.
No.
No, everybody he wanted to impress.
People he wanted to curry favor with, both because they were elites and because they were servants. Shmonim Masayim, the 180, it's half of 360. 360 is, I know, how long does it take the sun, the earth, the
365.
365. Okay, 360 is close enough. So it's something to do with the cycle, half a cycle. What was Achashverosh trying to do in a not holy way is to take the niflaot habara, to take the wonders of the world. We could call it science today. They had other philosophy of science back then, and to be the one who shows authority over it, or it looks to the people like he's controlling it. And therefore, his power and the earth's, ability and the constellations and the seasons and all of these things are connected in the minds of his people to his melucha. The Rambam talks about this. He says, if you want to understand Avodah Zarah, don't think it's just like people bowing to this idol. They have a philosophy, and they have a culture, and the philosophy and the culture and the religion all go hand in hand. That's why he, I think, counts 51 mitzvot as part of Hilchos Avodah Zarah. Many of them are not on the surface Avodah Zarah at all, but they're associated with a way of life that's part of Avodah Zarah. Now, what did God do? He did just the opposite. He kept quiet. His name isn't mentioned in the Megillah. The miracles of Purim are not breaking nature. He also stayed in nature. But he showed that he did what Achashverosh wanted to do, God did it. He showed he is in control of nature. Okay, and then the next pasuk says, "V'melos hayam," in pasuk Hey, at the conclusion of those days, right, the 180 days. Next page. Ha'ela asa hamelech v'chol ha'am nimtzeim b'Shushan habira, migadol v'ad katan mishteshi bas yamim b'chatzar ginas bitan hamelech. The king made another banquet for all the people who were present in Shushan. This great edifice. Just to give it context for Danny, what was that called? What, the inauguration?
Local party.
Indoor inauguration.
Right, indoor.
Even though there was an outdoor, there was also an indoor. Okay? Let's give it context. The Shushan citadel from great to small 7 days. And he quotes the Talmud, the Steinsaltz. He may have treated them to this feast in an attempt to win the trust of the citadel's residents, many of whom were government officials. This banquet took place in the court of the garden of the king's audience hall. That's not how the Talmud reads it. It took place in all of these three places, right? The Chatzar, the Gina, and the Bisan Hamelach. Three different places. Okay, let's break it down. Now, he didn't realize it. He thought it was the end of the time of when the Galut should be. And yet, God did not allow the temple to be rebuilt. So he thought that was a sign that he was safe, that the temple would not be rebuilt. But V'malotei Ma'ela means the end times. Maybe Mashiach is a process. The process is now being set in motion. So maybe he himself inadvertently triggered the Mashiach and his party for the Beis HaMikdash not being rebuilt. That's what triggered the Beis HaMikdash being rebuilt. Just a thought.
And who is that?
Achashverosh.
Oh, okay.
Or as we say, also God.
Right.
Right? Asa
What
HaMelech.
you were saying before is that the solution is already found in the Christ.
Yes. That's a very common, powerful theme here is and the Gemara says it also. It's a Kabbalistic idea, but God gives you the medicine before he gives you the illness even. So it sounds like a movie, where they make the antidote and then they give the sickness to someone and then they make.
Sounds like modern medicine.
God did it first, before modern medicine, and before Hollywood. Right? So.
Imagine it's giving me a time to prepare.
Yeah. At the very least, he'll give me it. Asa HaMelech. So that's again the Gilui of L'sakin El B'Malchus Shin Daled Yud, to fix the world the way it should be according to God's ultimate plan. L'chol ha'am nimse'im b'Shushan habir, to everyone who is found in the city of Shushan. So we know there's a machlokus in the Gemara and Megillah Yud Beis Amud Aleph. The Gemara says Rav and Shmuel, the two great sages, one says he was a wise king. The other one says he was a foolish king. The one who says he's wise because first he took the people who lived in distant lands, made them his allies, took good care of them, fed them and wined and dined them for 180 days. And he knew that the locals, he'll deal with them whenever he needs to. They're not going anywhere, so he could deal with them later. And then after he dealt with the world, then he moved in and hunkered down with the locals and got them aligned with him. And that means if you think logically, there's a need to, let's say, I hate the word, but we'll use it anyway, to do kiruv v'chokim. You start with like bringing people who are not religious, who you don't know, you never met in your life, but you're going to go out and find them. You're going to go to Tasmania. I went to Tasmania.
Who's
Right.
advising him? Haman or who's coming from him?
Now, this is all. Who's coming? I don't know. It's a good question. According to the Gemara, it's him. Either he's smart or he's stupid.
Right.
But I'm just bringing it home, like saying, Seichel will dictate that when you go out there and change the world. You can always deal with if your family rebels. Once they rebel, you can deal with it. By the way, it doesn't always work like that. When they rebel, it might be too late, God forbid, right? So,
Or maybe not.
maybe not. Maybe not. The other opinion says he was a foolish king. He should have stayed home. He should have first invited his own people, his own town, and only after he solidified their own, because if there's ever invaders, like look what happened to Putin, that guy who invaded, what was his name, that died in the plane crash by accident, that Putin accidentally killed him with.
Yeah.
What was his name?
Prokosian, something like
It sounds like a type of kichel or kishka or something. What's his name?
Yeah, yeah.
Prokoshin, he was right.
close to that. It's not
And what about Assad?
So no, I'm just saying, one day he got angry and he wanted to talk to Putin or give him a piece of his mind. So he drove in, he was going all the way into Moscow.
Yeah.
Where were all the Russians defending
Nobody.
themselves? So Putin's stretching out his big arm into the Ukraine. His own people back home are nowhere to be found to defend him. He could have that could have ended Putin.
No,
So-
it was just a trap.
No, it was not a trap. He wasn't ready because he was busy. He's busy. Putin is busy. He was like Achashverosh. He first wanted to get more power around the world. You're probably right, but Danny, just give me a chance. There's two opinions here, right? Rav and Shmuel. So one says he was smart. He's going to fight first with the Ukraine, and then he'll make sure everybody locally in Moscow is happy. The other one says no. He should have made sure that that his own people are going to defend him.
No prophet in his own town. It's easy to win over people who don't know you, who are afraid of your reputation.
Yeah.
And then once you got the whole world, then the people in your own town are going to, what are
Yeah.
they going to be fighting then? It makes sense.
Yeah. So you could say this politically, you could also say it spiritually. Sometimes maybe we go too far out, we help too many other people, and we neglect our own children. Yeah, it's two opinions in the Talmud. They both have a point. Okay, we continue. A Mishta Shivas Yamam, a party for 7 days. So we know that Shebishvius in the 7th, Ben David Ba, the descendant of David, Mashiach is going to come.
So the party
The 7th
was for
generation.
185 days.
No, we went to the next verse.
Next part.
That party was for the big shots out of
I
town.
see. Okay.
Now it's the in-town
Yeah.
locals,
Okay.
local yokels. Yeah, there's everyone.
I-
So we know the 7th is the level of Moshe Rabbeinu. He's the 7th. He's the cherished. It's David is connected to the 7th. Mashiach is connected to the 7th. Malchus is connected to the 7th. The 7 includes the 6 that came before it. But on the other hand, 7 is, we say, the Malchut, Lesla Megar Meklum, is it's like an empty vessel. It doesn't have its own character, which, again, doesn't really mean that all the time. It means that only in limited times. People say it in a more general sense. Shouldn't necessarily be bandied about in every situation. But now, only through Malchut is, as we mentioned before, Sof Ma'aseh Machshavat Chila. The final act is what God intended to begin with. The beginning is wedged in the end is wedged in the beginning. Keter, which is God's will reveal itself through God's kingship, through his final, the 7th, so to speak. Achashverosh, we said before, corresponds metaphorically to Melech Malchei Amlachim, to God. And we also know that there is, in his more real existence, Zelu Mazeh, he represented a king that had a connection to the Sitra Achra, to the dark side. Now, we know there's a difference, obviously, between Malchus of Kedusha and Malchus of Klipot.
Achashverosh had a connection with the dark side and the light.
Yeah, the physical Achashverosh was a vehicle for unholiness, but somehow he also was channeling on a higher level his source. We associate him somehow when we see things in this world. They somehow are metaphors for the upper world, and Achashverosh is a metaphor for God. So on a simple level, he was trying to subvert God's will on the unholy level. And it's particularly Malchus. It's the Malchus is that which can throw shade and shadow on God's kingship. A king, power that can hide, can make it illegal to study Torah, can do all of these things to make recognizing HaKadosh Baruch Hu very challenging. And we know that there has to be a fight against Malchus Harisha, against the wicked kingdoms. And to turn over, like we said, it's all the people in the middle that need to be turned over. There's the people who are going to stay bad. And it turns out that even Achashverosh, he wasn't really the klipa that we thought he was, because we were able to turn him. By the way, there's an opinion in the Gemara that even Esther thought that, what's the difference between Achashverosh and Haman? They're both thoroughly evil all the way through. And she wanted to not just accuse Haman, but both of them, which would have just gotten her killed. Yeah. And the Malach stopped her from pointing at Achashverosh. But sometimes the Malach knows better.
So can we learn from this that God's will is not good, it's not bad, it's the thing in between? It's
No.
the thing influenced by
No.
good and bad?
No.
In Rayo and Yamala, there's no evil coming from above. Nothing.
What you could learn is you are the one. You're the one with your sweet smile, Theo, that could make. There's no middle. The middle is going to either turn good or bad.
Oh, okay.
And right now it ain't looking good.
But do they have to work together? Like, can you have
You can
good
do
without
it.
dark?
Yes,
Oh, okay.
you can have good and you can have dark, but we want to. It's the middle is the battleground.
Oh, okay.
That's like right now the world is in a very dark place.
Right.
So we have a lot of work to do. That's why, let me just say one thing to make this clear about everything I'm saying and everything about the Megillah. This story is a story going on now. This has nothing to do with history. I mean, it also happened, but that's not the point. The point is it's happening now.
Right.
Every one of these things is happening now. Yeah. The Baal Shem Tov says, Hakora is a Megillah Mafreya, Lo Yatza. It's a Mishnah. It says, if you read the Megillah out of order backwards, you don't fulfill your obligation. Baal Shem Tov says, if you read it back then, you read a story like, oh, let me read you an old story. You didn't do it. You're not getting it at all. Okay? I should have started with that. Yeah.
The message of that is, I mean, it's a crazy thing to say. Of course you're not. You're saying you're going to read the parsha and go backwards. Doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Saying that history is a march to a point.
Keeps going, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a strange halacha, no?
Yeah.
Everything they say is just...
Yeah. Yeah, by the way, a lot of the stuff I'm saying started in the Gemara.
Oh, really?
Not like I didn't go like, what does the Zohar say? No, I said, what does the Gemara say?
Wow.
And then this is thing. It's why, yeah, exactly.
They were just good at hide and seek.
Yeah, they didn't explain
Hide and seek.
themselves as
So
much.
they're in.
That's what they were good at.
Now it says, B'chatzar ginas bitan hamelech. I mentioned to you, unlike the way it's translated, the Gemara translates it as three different places.
Why is it important to specify all these places? Who cares what went on in the palace?
Beautiful question. So the Gemara says, Megillah Yud Beis. By the way, Megillah Yud Beis is like the powerhouse daf of like things about the Megillah. It goes on to Yud Gimel, Yud Dal, but that's like, boom, that's a massive daf. So, again, machlokes, debate between Rav and Shmuel. One said, Haroya l'chatzer, haroya l'gina, l'gina. He says it was like an APAC conference. Depending on how big your donation, that's the color lanyard you have, and that's what if you get into the better seats or not. He said certain people, the fancy people went into the fancier place, and the less fancy went into the simpler place. Now, and there were three places I mentioned before. The chatzar, the courtyard, the gina, the garden, the bisan, the inner rooms, or room. Now, the other opinion says no. They tried to put everyone in the chatzar, in the courtyard, but there was not enough room. So then he tried to put the remaining people in the gina, and that also wasn't enough room. And then he put whoever was left into the bisan, and there was enough room. Now, there's b'masnisa tana. There's a brisa that says, Hoshivan b'chatzar pasach lahem shnei psachin. He sat them in the courtyard and he gave them two doors. One to the gina, to the garden, and one to the bisan. The Chedushei Agados explains. The bisan is where they, like a more, it's a how does he translate bisan? The audience hall. The audience hall.
The garden and audience hall, okay.
Yeah. He brings, the pshat is that these three places, chatzar, he uses this language, makom panui shemisham shembo. An empty place, just a big empty courtyard, you use it. Gina is makom zera. It's a garden, beautiful, there it's roses or whatever they plant these beautiful plants in the garden. A bisan, this is again, the chatzar would be probably the indoor play. Usually chatzar is outdoor, but it could be like indoor or outdoor or a little bit of both. He's translating bisan not as the audience room, but a place, an orchard of trees. You go with the Chedushei Agados translation. So let's explain it a little more according to the Sod, the inner meaning of Torah. Chatzar represents the Chalal HaPanui. God made a space, so to speak, Kaviyachal, before there was space, a place where God's light wasn't manifesting, so that there could be a kav, there could be a small, thin, narrow thing that went into that empty place to start the olamot, to start the creation of the worlds. What's the point of this tzimtzum that this contraction of divine light is to create the world, which is concealed. We need a place to create the world in, so to speak, so that people will in that place be, as we said, we can be evil and we can be good. And there's a world in the middle that we can watch them turn evil or help them become good. It's natural for people to be thinking about themselves. In the words of Rabbi Ashlag, to think, B'shvili nivra olam. It's actually, the rabbis say it. The world was created for me. So, if the rabbis say it, how much more so is a person entitled to think, this whole world is for me. It's all about me. Is it going to be good for me? What if it's worth 1 penny for me, but $1 billion for some poor people? Well, give me the penny. I don't care about other people. God forbid. I'm just saying, that's the continuation of the Helam of the light being so concealed that a person only wants for themselves. They become extremely self-centered, extremely selfish. Their ego, their sense of entitlement is very, very strong. And that's specifically the place that we want to say, no. That you have to make a dwelling place for God. Which one is that? Through loving other people, through sharing. Anyway, it is 10 o'clock, so we're going to break from Marv until next time.
Thank you.
We'll see you again next year.
Are these going to be around tomorrow night? For
These will be there tomorrow night. Thank you, Lou.
Lou.